Howdy hi there, friends and neighbors. This is your old pal George Cohn from the Lest We Forget World War II Museum in Louisville, Texas. And I'm here to tell y'all a little tale about when my mom and dad went back to Italy in 1984 for a battlefield reunion tour with the 36th Infantry Division. I was lucky enough to get to go along with them. So y'all have a seat, get you a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, glass of wine, whatever it is you like. In 1984, I was working in London, England for a bank. And my mom and dad signed up to go on what they called a battlefield reunion tour with members of the Texas 36th Division in Italy. And they flew into Rome. And I went over and I met them. I met my mom and dad in Rome. My father hadn't left the United States since World War II. I met my mom and dad in Rome, and there were 4 buses of Texas 36th Division vets that we traveled from Rome down to Salerno, the city of Salerno in the Bay of Salerno. And it was very interesting to be with all these old guys who had fought in Italy during World War II. And I'm the son of one of the guys there, Sergeant Cohn. And I had already studied my junior year in Germany. I studied my junior year in a German university and learned the language so I could speak German. And so my mother talked to the tour guide and told them that I could speak German, and they asked me to attend because of my language ability. And they said that I could have free hotel and room and board with them if I just rode along. So I met up with them, and we went down to Salerno, the town of Salerno. And we got out, and there were all these little Italian men in suits that had chests full of medals, just medals everywhere. And I'll show you all a picture of it, okay? But just, I mean, it was incredible how many medals they had. And these American guys who fought pretty hard in Italy against the Germans got off the bus, and they saw these Italian guys, and they were all, shaking their heads or whatever. And I remember my dad saying they couldn't fight the gnats off their ass. So we continued on, and we went down to the town of Paestum. And in Paestum is a Greek colony from 500 BC. It's a pre-Roman Greek colony. And where my father's landing craft hit, September 9 of 43, was in front of the Temple of Neptune. So it's Paestum is this Greek colony. It's a walled-in city. And it looks like the Acropolis or the Parthenon. I mean, it's incredible. It's got the Temple of Neptune. It's got an amphitheater. It's this huge, thick wall that encircles the city. Some minor buildings here and there, lots of ruins laying around. So when we got there, it was fascinating to see these ancient ruins. And while we all stood around, a tour bus pulled up that was not one of our group. And men got out that were of the same age, and they just happened to have been German veterans from the invasion at Salerno. And so, well, it was pretty unusual at first, because all of a sudden all these guys pile out of the bus, and they're all speaking Eaton, Botten, Dooten, Dotten. Our guys were looking around going, hey, these guys are Krauts. And so it ended up that the Americans and the Germans were shaking hands, and I was translating for them. So, they were saying, I was here, and the Germans saying, well, I was over there, and, they're shaking hands and laughing and carrying on. And so there was this big German lieutenant, Lieutenant Leopold von Buch, that I did quite a bit of translating for. And he, after I translated the last time for him, he asked me, why are you here? And I told him, well, my father was a vet. And he goes, well, did he survive? Well, yeah, that's why I'm here, I mean, I'm born after the war, so I hope so. So he said, well, I'd like to talk to him. And my dad was over with some 36th Division guys. And I tell you, my dad this is actually my dad right here. When he was training in Camp Bowie, okay? He was the first draft pick out of Fort Worth in 1940, and he was training in Camp Bowie, and you can see with World War I gear. I mean, he's got a Kelly helmet on, he's got or a Brody helmet, whatever you want to call it, World War I style helmet. He's carrying a BAR. Where we go deer and turkey hunting these days, you know, they were down there learning how to play war. So my dad was the nicest guy you could ever imagine. I mean, anybody was welcome at my house to have dinner, to stay. If guys were in trouble, they could stay in the room over the garage. And some guys stayed for extended periods of time. I mean, my best friend stayed there for probably 6 months when I went away to college. So again, my dad was a very happy, jovial guy, very welcoming to everybody. And he saw me walking with this German lieutenant to him. And when we got kind of close to him, my dad just spun on his heel and walked off. And it was obvious my dad didn't want to talk to that lieutenant. And so later I asked him, I said, Dad, why wouldn't you talk to that man? That's not like you. And my dad said, son, the Germans are the better soldiers. They make the best Americans. But those bastards killed my friends. And that was just it. He just didn't want to talk to them. So everywhere we went with those 4 tour buses of the 36th Division guys, this German tour bus followed us. So when we were at Anzio, at the graveyard at Anzio, that German Lieutenant Leopold von Buch, he dressed in a suit, and the Germans all wore their medals here, like our salad dressing, just the little thin medals. But they all the Germans had their medals on them. And I don't remember seeing one American guy that wore any medals at all. The Italians had them all over their chests. The Germans had them right here. And the Americans didn't do anything. So he gave us a very compelling speech at the Anzio graveyard where the Americans are buried. And then later, we went to the German cemetery at Monte Cassino, which is behind the hill where the Abbey is, and there were 20,002 dead Germans on this mountain. And I'll show you pictures of it. Every tombstone has 3 dead Germans underneath it. There's always 3 names there. So when we were in that cemetery, that German lieutenant and his wife were milling around, and they got close to us, and they asked, can we take a picture with y'all? And so I asked my dad, and my dad said, yeah, all right, you know. So we all stood together, and we took a picture with Lieutenant Leopold von Buch. If I recall correctly, 26th Panzer Division. Nice guy. We corresponded for a little bit after that tour.